So Kostiak has this skull, and somewhere along the line she names it Macaroni.
I don't know where that came from. I loved it. Cause like
something about like Makira having had macaroni earlier in the day or something. I don't know.
Okay, I thought it was because like...
And also like its texture or something. I don't really remember. But eventually it gets named macaroni. That's besides the point. That's entirely
Macaroni the skull.
unimportant. Yeah. It's what we ended up all calling it so that we weren't like the idol all the time. We just ended up calling it macaroni as like a shorthand for only the people in the know.
If I can speak about that, I heard so many people would talk about this macaroni. And I was like, I got so confused. Because like, what's macaroni?
That was the entire point.
I don't know what's macaroni.
That was the entire point.
And then I saw the idol. And I was like, I made the connection. I'm like, why is the skull called macaroni?
I don't know. So I don't know. Ask Kostiak.
You rub the skull and you're blessed with macaroni.
That's a pretty good blessing. I like macaroni.
So after Clov is rezzed and we find an arbiter, they're like, okay, we're gonna go do a ritual to like learn more about this. So a whole contingent of Vaterken go up to the big ritual site, which is like way up the hill.
By the tree. By
the big tree at the very highest point in sight.
I didn't really see a lot of game up there at all. Like,
well, you can't see it from where we were.
No, like in general, I don't know. I know two things: that ritual and Matthew's kidnapping. And
there was also a Suzak ritual that was up there that I know existed.
Okay.
Well, there's a few of them. I went up there a lot.
So, like, we go up there. It's pure dark at this point. The only light is from the full moon, and we're up there. The ritual is ongoing.
We're like, explain what a ritual is. Ritual is a game mechanic where you can do essentially, you can do kind of like it's like an all catch-all thing of you can choose what it can do and then give resources and.
It's a way to facilitate different like magic uses, so you can do things like recreate effects, give people effects, take them away. You can learn things. Basically, if you can figure out how to do it, you can do it.
It's a game mechanic that allows you to do a lot of cool stuff in the game.
Yeah, so they do it to get insight about macaroni. And while they're doing that, there's a line of us just like lined up along the bluff because we know that undead and orcs can come from up down the hill. So we're there, and we've also got people over on this other side to keep like players from coming up the hill and potentially interrupting this ritual. Because if the ritual is interrupted,
you lose everything.
You lose everything that you've put into it, essentially.
I do also want to say that
we put anything into it component-wise to speed it up. Because at this point, the crones already had pretty decently high ritual resonance between the blood ritual and the blessing of the gate and the blessing of Erica. I think they were already sitting at a ritual resonance of 3.
Which boosts speed for the whole thing.
Essentially, like, it takes away chunks of time out of the rituals for you. But while we're up there, and they're doing things, Kostiak's biting Clov's ankles, people are giving up mortal wounds, there's chanting, there's drumming, like, it is happening. And we're sitting on this bluff, and we're just waiting. And then we hear a death whistle. A few minutes later, we hear, "Orcs are attacking! Vaterken to the gate!" And we're like, feel free to breathe.
I'm gonna believe that. I'm gonna believe
that. And Volley, of course, is a new Jarl who has just left all of her clanspeople down in this camp, and they don't know where she is because she just left with the crones and a contingent of warriors, and she's the only one up there from her clan. Nobody knows where she is. So she spends the entire rest of this fight and the ritual just pacing like a caged animal, back and forth along this bluff. And I'm still in my full kit, mind you. I still have the full mantle on, the full armor, like the whole thing. And I actually got some really interesting interactions with the Riveneer while I was up there with some of the things he was saying, kind of like to just try and distract her from things. I don't know how much of that I want to share, though.
That's fair.
Basically, he was like, you picked a good time to come back, for this is the age of heroes. And Volley's like, oh my goodness, this is too much right now. I don't have the capacity.
Hype man.
I will shelf that and deal with it later. And then we hear fighting, and it's constant for a good maybe 10 minutes, and then it just gets quiet all at once. And that doesn't make Volley feel any better.
No.
At all. So she has to stay, because they've already sent a contingent of Volsum back to go help. And now they're like skeleton crew guarding this ritual, and now would be the prime time for them to come up this hill or the other side as players and attack this ritual and interrupt it. And they would not get the information they needed about this idol.
Mm-hmm.
So of course she has to stay. Ritual's completed. We get information. Hooray, yay. We go back down the hill. She starts asking around in camp. Where's my clan? Like, is everybody okay? Like, what happened? And nobody can tell her anything about her people. So she books it back to the Harafen corner. Like, full tilt. Books it. I did trip over a guy line because it wasn't well marked at the Crone Temple. Because it kind of does a little swoop around it.
Yeah.
And then I tried to trip on it again later, but I caught it before it caused any problems, and then I moved a lantern. So now, at that point, nobody's gonna trip on it. But I did take a tumble the first time because I was just full on running, and I was like, "Are you fine?" And I'm just like back on my feet and gone.
Barely an inconvenience.
Yeah. And I literally like run into camp and just start hugging people because they're alive. You'd already gone to bed or something.
No, I think that's when I went to Adrian's. Yeah.
But someone was able to confirm that you weren't dead.
Yeah.
And Volley was like, I'm done. I'm gonna go drink. This is supposed to be a nice celebration, and we've dealt with 2 attacks, a giant ritual. I'm done. I'm drinking. Goodbye. And she went back up to the front and just got very drunk.
Very drunk, yeah.
I'm not entirely clear the entire progress of events tonight, that night, with especially with all the attacks or whatever. I know that every time I tried to go to bed, either there was an attack or there was a Lord Bard shenanigans going on. Finnick, Hafting, and all the other bards did amazing work. I loved it. The recent video we did, the community thing, that was like one of the main parts was them singing it. Within the video and doing the last part. The song of, I don't know what he called it. The Song of Reckoning or whatever. I have the transcript. He sent it to me so I could do the subtitles. But it's a really beautiful song, you know? And it really captures the whole essence of it. But I was trying to sleep. And the drums.
Clearly not, because you were recording it.
Yeah, because I couldn't go to sleep, so I figured, well, I might as well do something. And it was dark enough. I could sneak a camera in.
Yeah.
It was fine.
Well, at that point, it was technically after hours, as well.
This is why I'm trying to figure it out, because there was another orc attack for sure. I know this that night. Yeah, I know there was another attack. Some point, I feel like there was 3 attacks.
There was only 2 first night.
What's that? Because I was in Hadrian camp when the orcs attacked at one point. Essentially, at one point or another, I had gone to Matthew Marshall, the person that had commissioned me to make a large map. Here's the pictures right here. It's a beautiful map. I'm really happy about it. It's really cool. It was a really fun time the entire time I was working with the Hadrians this year, because I did so much crap that involved them, the Vatican, and the Wyverns. I was in the background of almost every notable event between them all. Selling maps. But specifically then, Matthew Marshall had commissioned me to make a map, and I was in character going over there to get my payment. We had discussed it before. It was going to be Hadrian Drachma was what it was going to be, but there was a small issue. Matthew Marshall was arrested for tax evasion and owes millions of dollars in back taxes. Simultaneously, so he had a trial, but simultaneously he was also running for praetor. It was a whole funny thing. Magnus won the praetor status, but all this together, what it means is that Matthew Marshall was broke. And me and him are friends. And it was a hilarious time because I spent the entire event walking around trying to keep Matthew Marshall alive so I could get my money. And it was a really I didn't intend it to be like that, but it was just a whole funny thing. It was a good excuse just to be in multiple places I shouldn't be. But specifically then, I had gone down there, and then that's when like rumblings of attacks was going on. And so I was in their thing, and I was in the line with a bunch of Hadrians as the orcs were like coming around. And so we heard a whole bunch of commotion by Vad Camp, right? Mm-hmm. And the Hadrians sent a scout party to go ahead, figure out what's going on. Only one of them came back, and they're like, okay, so we all went over there. We all went behind Hrafn Camp and was going through, and then we saw it was by the road that all the commotion was going on, and so we were going through there, and then I saw that there was a big Volsum guy, Rothgar, was in Volsum Camp, right? I was like, okay, he'll know what's going on. We were in the middle of camp, and he turns around, and he wasn't Hrothgar. It was a big frickin' orc in the middle of Volsum Camp. And I'm like, that's not a friendly. And we all banded together. We pushed him back to the road. Then all the orcs turned around, find the Vatican, and smoked all of us. It was rough.
That's really funny. It's like you guys walk in and you're like, oh, yeah, maybe this person's friendly, and you turn around and it's an orc, and then like you take that one out, and all the orc buddies are just like, you're like, actually, we bit off more than we could chew.
That's exactly what happened. That's the same thing that happened up in the woods. The same thing happened. But yeah, so that all happened, and that was a rough scenario. That's when I took my first mortal wound, and then I
took
drug
one in the first battle too.
Yeah, I don't think I did with the undead. I don't think I did.
I'm pretty sure I saw you down through the gate.
Maybe I did. I took full mortal wounds. You know, I did. I think I did because I took full mortal wounds. Like I had full mortal wounds halfway through the second day. It was a busy time.
It was a
there was
crazy couple days, man.
The pacing.
And this is just day one.
That was
This
was
is
the first night from 7 to 11.
10.
7 to 10, 3 hours.
Well, I think there was
so
still,
much bullcrap.
people still
We
went over
barely
the
finished
10
it.
o'clock hour.
Yeah, we definitely went over time, we think, with the ritual. But, like, we started it before 10, so they were like, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like any of us could tell what time it was.
Right, like, yeah.
I also want to say, up on the hill was technically a non-combat area. So.
In the ritual sites? No, they aren't.
No. That's specifically listed as a non-combat area on the maps.
The
big ritual
house. Well, the maps we had originally said that was not part of the play area, but then they changed their mind and made it.
I didn't know that. Otherwise, I would have gone up there, especially when Matthew was kidnapped. I would have gone up there and done combat, but I just thought it was a non-combat area, so I couldn't do anything. No. Well, that kind of screws a bunch of things up.
There wasn't any like no combat areas aside from within 10 feet of guy lines. Everywhere else would have been
not according to Joel.
out of game.
Not according to Joel.
Joel's the one who made the ruling.
I'll explain the story later, but doing Matthew's kidnapping, me and a bunch of Hadrians were fighting Wyverns, trying to get to him, and then he started yelling, and then Matthew was running off with his kidnapper, and he said, "That's a non-combat area! That's a non-play!" Yelling, and it's like, "No combat!" And it was the whole thing, so we stopped, and I was like, I feel bad, because otherwise I would have gone and saved Matthew.
No, the rule specifically said that within a certain radius of guy lines.
So I thought
10 feet.
I thought the bazaar was also totally off limits for combat.
if you're not in 10 feet of guidelines, you can do whatever you want.
I thought it was a blanket statement for the Bizarro. Otherwise, I would have done a lot more crap.
Misinformation.
Yay.
I think they said that on purpose.
Claw rid of the prince. Claw managed to get it, though.
Yeah. He did good.
But yeah.
Oh, we haven't even gotten to the trial yet. Oh
We haven't. We're still on the first day. We're still on the first night.
Oh my god.
Well, there was just so much that happened. It was like we were there for 3 days, but it felt like a whole week's worth of stuff in just those 3 days.
Yeah. I guess that was really all that happened. I made some friends at the Conversation Pit overnight. I met Robert the Hadrian.
Oh, Robert's great.
Yeah.
He's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I liked him a lot. I met somebody else.
He's the one that caused the crap with the Wivlin and the Corby boys at the gate. I don't know for sure, but I'm 90% sure that was him because it was dark. But I didn't mind at all. It was awesome. But yeah, I'm glad you made some friends. That's nice. You need some friends.
Yeah, Molly made some friends. Which is funny because she doesn't like people very much. In terms of like outside of the Vatican, like she's very distrustful of people. But you know, it was a night for celebration, so she was more willing to be friends.
So we slept.
Yeah.
It was actually a really good night's sleep. It was freaking cold.
Yeah.
That night I slept pretty okay because that night I actually got the reindeer pelt from Ike.
Oh.
You know,
Yeah, it's warm just sitting against it. That's nice.
it was very nice.
Mm.
Because the night before I was up a lot with how cold I was. Even though we had like tons of blankets and I threw my coat on over top and like my mantle too. It was just so cold that night. And then night 2 I actually did fine because I had the pelt.
Mm-hmm.
And then night 3 I woke up hot.
No. I had a negative degree sleeping bag from my trail life and Boy Scout days, so I was doing fine.
Mm-hmm.
It was great. I was also on a cot, which is above the ground, which is why most of my stuff didn't get wet. I learned from last year. You could, as a blanket statement, you could tell who was there last year by how they built this stuff this year.
Yeah.
You could tell.
Yeah.
But yeah, we slept all pretty good. We woke up in the morning. It was kind of fun because, like, in the morning, wasn't game on immediately. It was 8, 9 o'clock.
It was 9 o'clock was game on officially. Yep.
Everyone was still in character though the whole time. Most 90, 80, 70 86
It depended on the person. I think I would have preferred if it was game on all the time and combat specifically was off.
That's how it was last year, right?
I think so, yeah. But it was really hard for me to have to like kind of toe that line because if I didn't need to be on character, a lot of the time it was like, well, I'm not gonna bother.
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as game on was on, it's like, well, now I got to turn on, and that's a little bit harder of a switch than just start the day in character.
Right? I was in Griff's character pretty much the entire weekend, besides when I was filming, and that's when I was trying to be invisible.
You also weren't up as early as I was. I
That's
was
fair.
up from like
That's
7 on
Yeah.
every morning.
That's fair.
So I had a couple hours before game on.
I need my beauty sleep.
I can't sleep in anymore.
Okay, now I can't with the new schedule. Like fully now, I can't at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mona was great. I think I did get some footage.
Yeah, you
and
got some morning footage at the breakfast.
breakfast was
table.
great.
Yeah.
Thank you for breakfast.
You're welcome. I love hearing it.
Now we can talk about how the fact that not a single meal was uninterrupted at any point in game.
I was literally just thinking like we should like you guys were talking about like the breakfast flag or the meal flag rather.
Yeah. We definitely need
That would be
something
a
to
good-
tell people leave us alone.
Because I agree, like if it's going to be immersive, game on should be the entire time and then have specific times for like when battle play starts versus like being out of character. And then I think instead of having specific times, because everyone runs on different times, and so instead of having specific times we eat, we have a meal flag that goes up. So people might be able to come to the gate, but there's going to be no fighting during this meal time because people need to eat.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that would be more beneficial.
Yeah.
And even though we had roughly the same schedule as like the official meal schedule that had been posted,
Yeah. We tried. We
We-
tried so hard to keep that.
Still didn't get uninterrupted meal times.
Right.
Like, there were... The day when you guys made the potatoes and the peppers,
Yeah.
I set that bowl down 4 times.
Yeah. And then you pretty much just get cold food.
Yeah.
There's no warm meal because the mornings were so cold, the evenings were very cold, and so those warm meals were kind of necessary to keep you guys going.
The first morning, though, that was the morning that the trial for the Suzek Mar, as we are calling him, Prince of Nothing, was supposed to happen. So it wasn't actually supposed to be trial. It was supposed to be a ritual, and we did have a whole lot of work go into it from Dwen and some of the other folks to set it up out of game to where, you know, you're blocking like all the light, right?
She's in the shadow realm.
Yeah.
There she is.
There you go.
Wait, it should be.
I think you might die today.
I got chained around. I'm good. She's only a potionsmith.
Well, you don't need legs.
Do you want a donation to the kitchen?
Yeah. I was planning on making some chili today.
But it was supposed to be a ritual thing, and he'd agreed to it at a game, and then apparently last minute kind of like backed out, which made a lot of folks very upset because a lot of work went into it to try and curb character bloodlust is really what we were trying to curb, because the Suzek prince had last game put a whole bunch of money on the table
A lot of money!
to attack Divin Falls, which is the holy city of the Vatican, for reasons that are,
Debatable.
to be frank, absolute bull.
That's
Like, they're absolutely not real.
who even was the old lady?
She doesn't exist. That's the entire point. So he was lying about saying things, us like doing things, but turns out that they wanted to do a trial instead of what we originally planned. So Dwen is just doing her best during this trial, and you've got an entire massive number of Vatican who are just livid, walking up to the stage for what's supposed to be a ritual and now apparently is a trial, in full gear. So full armor, helms, like the works. But before we get up there, I'm like, we should eat something. So I have a pancake. And I rip it in half, and I'm like, Herf has helmet on too. Herf, pancake. And he takes one bite out of this pancake, and he's like, I'm like,
Because Asher was feeding him baby carrots too.
I think that was later in the day.
Was it later?
This was
I
like
thought this was at
first
the
thing in
same
the
time.
morning. This was like first thing in the morning, day 2.
Oh, okay.
And then I'm like, well, what do I do with this single bite of Herf pancake? I'll give it to Dwen. Yeah.
Her friend when I'm married.
So I give it to Dwen, and she takes one bite, and then passes it back to Vera and the rest of the crows,
Just pass
and it
around
just continues to
pancakes.
move
Yeah.
around. While I eat my pancake on the way up the hill.
Community pancake.
Yeah, it was a community pancake.
That's another t-shirt idea. Community pancake.
Yes, I love that. That needs to be a button too.
All the proceeds for that one goes to the kitchen.
Yeah.
Like we have a whole kitchen line for the bad store.
Oh, that's funny. But
There's also a chibi version of you, of like Kitchen Cannibal or something like that. It's Cannibal with a K. It's just little chibi you.
I really love that, you guys.
And then we get up there, and there are so many Vatican who are just angry and so mad. And there's several pictures of a lot of us, and we just look so peeved. They're
Which
so good.
Really adds to the energy, the feel of the whole game, to be honest.
There's multiple pictures from that event where, like, you can feel just the aura of the people in them. I mean, I know I've got one, and it's Murder Volley Face.
Yeah.
Yeah. But everyone in the crowd is just mad And then the trial proceeds, and they have Dwyn speak first on the behalf of the crones and Divin Falls, and then the prince gets to speak, and he's got this whole, like, scripted thing, and we're like... And out of game, upset, because she knows this is not what's supposed to be happening. Mm-hmm. But Volley has also already pegged this as wrong. Mm-hmm. Like, she can tell something's not right. This is not correct. She doesn't know how, but she knows that something's up.
So, to explain the series of events, there was supposed to be a ritual that was agreed upon. Both a lot of work happened. It was switched to a trial at last minute, and the prince had a script prepared that y'all weren't able to prepare for a trial.
Yeah.
Ugh, that
Dwyn
is so frustrating.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. If y'all would be able to prepare, it'd be a different story. But you weren't able to prepare a case.
Because we were not
notified.
told.
Right.
And then he says his piece, and that's it. He makes wild accusations during his section, and we are not allowed at any point to rebuttal.
Wow. It's like it was set up against you on purpose.
Wow, yeah, because it was.
Oh my god.
And at that point, Volley's like, nope, this is an absolute farce. There is no truth to be had here. Mm-mm. I refuse to accept what he is saying is true until I hear it from Runar's mouth that he denied.
Mm-hmm.
Did you actually say this?
I said it out loud a couple times.
Good,
yeah.
Good.
I was like, I refuse to believe that what this man is saying is true until I hear from Runar that, yes, I did wave it away. He said that Runar dismissed the opportunity to call off the attack, laughing, and waved off the chance, essentially.
Attacking Divin Falls.
About Divin Falls, yeah. And I was like, I refuse to believe this until I hear it from his mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely not.
So, again, this is what we careful how we say about this. There are certain issues. Be careful how we say this. I feel like it needs to be discussed. Because I feel like there was propaganda going out against certain factions and stuff like that. Yeah. Especially with Theseus and the Hadrians and stuff like that, and the whole thing. Always painting the Hadrians the bad guys.
Yeah.
But also, like, the Suzak and the Vatican stuff.
Yeah.
Of, like, Vatican were rightfully in-game angry about the attack on Divin Falls. Yeah. And then out of game, there's also a whole lot of issues, especially with the whole crap that happened at the gate last year. Mm-hmm. Of, like, cheating.
Rules not being followed the way they were supposed to.
I have to be careful how we say this, but also I'm kind of tired of being careful because, like, I wish the truth would come out.
The truth has come out. We've talked about it.
Yeah. About stuff like that.
The trouble is that nothing was done before the tornado came through, so it just kind of got lost in the shuffle and nothing ever came about it. And
then this is also a case like this again of, like, there was a lot of stuff going on, and a lot of the Vatican planned on attacking. Because, like, we were at war with the Suzak for, like, the entire few months after the last game.
Yeah. Like, this entire time, we've...
And then to have the Vatican be the ones to start trying to figure out a way that we don't curb stomp the smallest faction.
We bent over backwards to try and make it to where the Suzak would have an enjoyable game. Mm-hmm. And then to have that be...
Shoved in your face?
Shoved in our faces and ignored and taken advantage of because we wanted to make sure that we didn't become the big bad blue bullies is extremely disheartening as a player.
Yeah. And not even as a character, just like as someone who wanted to be in the game.
Yeah. Like, I think that's extremely disrespectful of all the work that we're trying to do to allow you to have a good time, to then go behind our backs and completely change what's been agreed upon in advance.
Mm-hmm. That's just poor character.
Yeah. And it gets worse.
How does it get worse?
The jury was supposed to originally be just Hadrians. We show up and there's Hadrians and Rivlins on the jury. And later we have confirmed, because one of the Hadrians confirms it directly by apologizing about it, they were bought off. Only one Rivlin voted in favor of the Vatican because he couldn't be bought.
Which one was this?
I don't remember. I don't know their names.
I want to find this name. I want to say I like this guy.
Wow.
Yeah. So the entire thing was completely rigged start to finish.
And again, as the largest faction with arguably some of the best warriors, we
There's
have
no arguably.
we have the ability to curb stomp them.
We could have
by
made the game
strength
absolutely
alone.
freaking miserable for the Suzak if we'd really wanted to. The thing is, we didn't. We tried our damnedest to make it to where we could end most of the hostilities, stop the worst of it, essentially pulling the knife from the wound, right? Now we have time to heal. No. Knife never came out. The prince took it and twisted it and just made the whole thing worse.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're dealing with that for the entire day.
They're turning the Vatican into a giant angry blue wolf, and they're not going to like this next game.
We said that last game.
Well, the good news is it has been resolved because the prince was brought to us later and he did die for his crimes.
And Claw killed him. And Claw killed him.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
also,
I had no idea. I take back what I said.
But also
No,
at the
but
end,
still,
to make
no,
himself
still
look like a
happen.
better guy, or like he was in the right or righteous or whatever, he says, I will offer my life to end these hostilities. And we were like, we are a people who, I forget exactly what was said, but give us a moment to confer. We are people whose voice, it is important to honor all of our like thoughts and opinions.
Voices, yeah.
So we congregate to the side of the stage, and the crones are speaking, and several of us are also there. And since I am a Jarl, I have a little bit louder of a voice in these instances. And I looked at Dwen, and I said, if we do this, we're the bad guys. I'm not finding her voice today. We're just jumping all over the map with these accents. But basically, that's the truth. If we take his life, we become the big blue bullies. We're the bad guys now.
At
And there's
some
no coming
point,
back
it's
from
not
that.
going to be a bad thing.
No. If he keeps pushing, that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah. So, yes, okay, that's what, yeah.
Yeah. So we decide not to take him. We decide to not take his life. And we say, we're not going to do it. You say, as the people of the Suzak, that he did not speak for you. It is your responsibility. Not ours.
I think that's baller.
leave.
That's baller.
And we left. Turned around and went down the hill. And you want to know what we did? As we come down the hill, we get about even with Suzette Camp. And Dwayne just makes a hard left.
And Herb is like...
Yeah, all the way in the back, at the top of the hill, Herf is like, uh-oh.
No!
And this is the first instance of the frick. As he comes like charging down the hill. But Dwayne veers off, and then Nolan and I go running right after her. And she opens the chest, and it's empty.
No, there was a vape on top of it.
Yeah, there was a vape in it.
There was a vape on top of it.
No, it was in it.
Was it in the time?
It was in
Okay.
it, yeah. And then Olin gets there, and he like flips the chest. And we, I think, have a short exchange. I don't remember exactly what was said, but we put the vape back in the lid of the box, and we just leave.
So I was actually there for that point. I was by Hadrian Camp because I was talking to someone there. I forget. I think it was the little one. The little one. I can't remember her name. The one that translated the runestones. I was talking to her there, but I saw that. I was just kind of like, what happened? What's going on? What happened? What's happening? But not once the entire game did the Suzak chest have anything in it besides that stupid frickin' vape.
Yep.
It was so funny.
Which means they were absolutely cheating.
Yeah. Because the malice.
Yeah. Because it's in the rules that you have to return malice to your chest. You cannot put it in a bag. You cannot put it in a pocket. If you're an artisan, you have to hold it all the way out here. Mm-hmm. If you're a warrior, you can keep it a little more concealed.
But still in your hand.
Yeah, it's got to stay in your hand, and you have to take it to the chest.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so funny because every time I saw anybody, Rivlin, Hadrian, or Vatican, pass that chest, and like no one was there the entire. No, this is every the entire time. They would just walk there, open it, and close it. And I did it one time, and there was a student like walking by and said sorry, and I was like, wait, why am I saying sorry?
Yeah. I'll tell the story about the time that I went and raided the chest later.
But yeah, it wasn't full at all the entire time. There was no one in Suzette camp that I saw pretty much the entire time. There was one
only when I was there and did mine. There was one guy.
One person.
Honestly, I was really tempted to just steal the chest and just take the chest away.
Well, they're not using it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Really not. So then we actually get to go back and like finish our food and stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't think we like even fully finished. Because then there was an undead attack.